Hello, 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 and welcome back to our weekly Sunday school lesson. I am Elder Latanya Milliken of the All Nations Church in Oakland, California. My pastor is Bishop Terrence L. Milliken. His wife is Lady Regina Blake Milliken, and this is our weekly Sunday school lesson for November the 24th. This is lesson 12 in our fall quarter, and we are highlighting the Numbers, the 16th chapter, the 23rd. Yes, through the 31st. That's what it's highlighting, but I'm going to take you all the way to the 50th verse. So the rest and remaining 16th chapter of Numbers. And so the subject of our lesson is judgment on rebellion. And so last week we set up the lesson for this week. We talked about what was happening in the lives of the children of Israel. But before we go there, I have to say thank you to everyone who made my birthday so special. This week I celebrated a birthday, but oh my goodness, thank you for all the texts, the cards, the cakes, the candy, the lunches, the dinners. Oh my God, the hits and comments on Facebook. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You made me feel so special. And I just want to say from the depths of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you, and I appreciate you, and all the best to all of you. And thank you for being on this journey with me. I really appreciate you. And oh my God, I just can't say thank you enough. But let's get to our lesson because I want to get it all in a timely manner. And so let's connect the dots. So last week we were talking about the children of Israel. And they had, there were some individuals who had incited an insurrection. They were accusing Moses of malpractice. You're taking too much on yourself, and your intentions are selfish. And so there was just this. There was Korah, and I share with you who Korah was. Korah was the Levite. And all of the Levites, God had given the Levites instructions on what every family, he had instructions on how he wanted them to handle the tabernacle. They were a tribe that did not inherit land. Their primary focus was the tabernacle and the things of God. And Korah joined forces with Dathan and Abiram. They were from the tribe of Reuben, and they recruited 250 influential men, influential leaders from the children of Israel. All of them challenged Moses, and it just was not good. And so that's what we talked about last week. And so as a response to the men challenging Moses, Moses understood, I need to get on top of this quick because this can really, get out of control. He had already seen what the 10 evil report had did to the people, had made them fearful. They didn't want to go up and possess the land. So now they were back in the wilderness. And so Moses had instructed him, okay, we're just going to let the Lord decide. All of the 250 men put incense in your burner, in your censers, and let's just go to the tabernacle. We'll let the Lord decide. In the meantime, in between time, two of the individuals would not come. And so Moses went to them and had a conversation with them, and they were just really, really disrespectful. And so that's where we left our lesson last week. This week we pick up. There were a couple of verses in between. We ended on, I believe, the 13th or the 14th chapter last week, and we're picking up on the 23rd. Anyway, in the middle of that time frame, Korah went to the congregation and tried to recruit as many people and turn as many people as he could against Moses and Aaron. And the Lord said, I'm going to just step away. I'm going to destroy everybody. And so Moses, here we see Moses pleading with the Lord, saying, please don't destroy the people. And so the Lord said, okay, I won't destroy the people, but this is what I will do. And so we're picking up on the 23rd verse of the 16th chapter, which starts our lesson this week. So let's read a little bit. If you have your translations, I'm in the way. And we're beginning to read at the 23rd verse. And the Lord said to Moses, tell the people to get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So the Lord said, I won't destroy the people, but here's what I'm going to do. So he gave Moses these instructions. So Moses got up and rushed over to the tents of Dathan and Abiram, followed by the elders of Israel. Quick, he told the people, get away from the tents of these wicked men, and don't touch anything that belongs to them. If you do, you will be destroyed for their sins. So all the people stood back from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Then Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the entrance of their gates, together with their wives and children and little ones. And so Moses spoke up in the 28th verse. He said, this is how you will know that the Lord has sent me to do all these things that I have done. Poor Moses, he kept having to prove himself and prove who he was and his role and his responsibility. I'll read on. For I have not done them on my own. If these men die a natural death, or if nothing unusual happens, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord does something entirely new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them and all of their belongings, and they go down alive into the grave, then you will know that these men have shown contempt for the Lord. Now, I'll read on. Verse 31. Moses had hardly finished speaking the words when the ground suddenly split open beneath them. The earth opened up its mouth and swallowed the men along with their households and all their followers who were standing with them and everything they owned. So they went down alive into the grave along with all their belongings. The earth closed over them and they all vanished from among the people of Israel. All the people around them fled when they heard their screams. The earth will swallow us too, they cried. So let's pause right here. What are your thoughts? I want you to look at this. I want you to look at this punishment from a bird's eye view. It seemed harsh. But when you look back over this entire quarter, when you look back through the lessons we've learned in the book of Numbers, all of the rebellion, the disobedience, the challenging Moses, the complaining, and more complaining about this, that, and the other. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So when you think about this punishment, it doesn't seem as harsh because of all of the times, all of the lessons, all of the examples that they had. Time after time after time after time, till God just said, you know what? Enough is enough, Moses. You can't just keep standing in the gap. I've got to show forth my power. I've got to show folks that there's consequences to their rebellion, to their sin. So these three men, there was the sin of jealousy, the sin of pride, and self-ambition. And the thing about this is they sin and then they want to bring other people into their sins. And so Moses understood, okay, oh my God, if I allow this to continue, it's going to ruin everyone. And I know there's a penalty for what they They do. At least Moses was figuring it out. There's a penalty, and if they bring everyone else, then there's going to be destruction for even more people. They had just lost people because of the plague of the 10 spies. The 10 spies died from a plague because of their evil report, and more people died from a plague that God sent because of their disobedience. And now we see another incident. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? What are you learning? What are you gleaming? Are you seeing the nature of God through these lessons? Are you understanding the human nature through these lessons? So let's see. Let's continue. So the ground opened up, and the thing about this is many of us, I live in California. And in California, we're accustomed to earthquakes. And so you might be thinking, oh, well, maybe this wasn't the hand of God. Maybe it was just a coincidence and it was an earthquake. But what happens when the earth shakes in an earthquake? The ground opens. But have you ever seen it close back? In this incident, Moses spoke, and immediately after he spoke, the ground opened. All of their belongings and their family, they plunged to their death, and the ground closed back up. I guess God said, I don't even want to see them again. And the people were afraid, and they ran. They said, oh my God, let's get out of here. We don't want this to happen to us. And so don't forget, these were the 3 men. There were how many left? 250 more. And they had prepared their senses, and they were standing at the tabernacle, and the Lord caused a fire to just consume them, to burn them up. And the Lord told Moses, send Eleazar, who could touch sacred things, to pick up all of the 250 censers, because they had brought those censers into the presence of the Lord. They were now considered sacred. And so the Lord told Eleazar, go and pick them all up, but flatten them. Flatten them and make this flat plate, sit it over the altar to remind the people that only the sons of Levi can touch sacred things. Doesn't matter what you think. I've given you instructions, and this is the instructions I've given you, and you must obey. And so he gave them a reminder. And that's what we're doing today. We're reading the word so that we can be reminded. This lesson is to let you see how important it is for us to be reminded, for us to read the word of God, to study the word of God, so that we don't continue to make mistakes, so that we don't continue to forget what God has done, how he has showed us his nature, his glory, his love, his holiness. He shows us, he's teaching us how to come to him. But time after time after time after time, we challenge that because it's our nature. We forget. We can see somebody fall and think it's not going to happen to us. They saw Miriam challenge Moses and the penalty that she got. They heard that the young man blaspheme. You know what I mean? And he was killed. They saw the 10 spies go out, come back with an evil report, and God killed them with the plague. They saw when the people were complaining about the manna and how greedy they was. And they never stopped. The Lord gave them quail, and they were just so unthankful. They never stopped to acknowledge God and to say thank you. And they ate like they never ate before. And then they were saying how good things were in Egypt, and it's so terrible out here. And God killed some of them with a plague, but they forgot. This lesson is to remind us. These lessons week after week after week is to remind us so that we don't make a mistake. Let's find out what else happened, because this is not the end of the story. This is the end of the highlighted part of the Sunday school lesson, but this is not the end of the story. So let's continue. So we know what happened. The ground closed up. The 250 men got burnt up. And after they got burned up, they picked up the census, made a plate, put it on the altar so that they would be reminded. How long do you think, quick question. How long do you think it took for them to be rebellious again? How long do you think they learned the lesson? How long do you think there was peace and compliance and obedience and faith and trust and respect and honor and thanksgiving and appreciation? How long do you think it took? Or how long do you think it was? I gotta hurry. But this just floored me right here. Verse 41. But the very next morning, the whole community of Israel began muttering against Moses and Aaron, saying, "You have killed the Lord's people." As the community gathered to protest against Moses and Aaron, they turned toward the tabernacle and saw the cloud had covered it, and the glorious presence of the Lord had appeared. Verse 43, Moses and Aaron came and stood in front of the tabernacle, and the Lord said to Moses, "Get away from these people, so that I can instantly destroy them." But Moses and Aaron fell face down to the ground, and Moses quickly said to Aaron, "Take an incense burner and place burning coals on it, on the altar. Lay incense on it and carry them out among the people to purify them, to make them right with God. For the Lord's anger is blazing against them." Here we see Moses standing in the gap again. This is why Moses was the leader. Because Moses loved the people. He cared about the people. He wanted to protect the people. Now, do you think that if Korah and Dathan and Abiram were the leaders, if they would have cared, they would have let these people die. They probably would have ran off. That's just my thought. But everyone can't be a leader. But here we see Moses doing the right thing again. So he tells Aaron, "Go." There had to be atonement for their sin, for their murmuring, their complaining, their rebellion. There had to be atonement. So he sent the high priest with an offering to stand between the death and the living. And he stood between the dead and the living, and the plague stopped. But guess how many people died? 14,700 people died in the plague, in addition to those who had died in the affair with Korah. Then, because the plague had stopped, Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance of the tabernacle. That ends chapter 16. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? I hope you're learning. It is my prayer that we're learning. Let's wrap this lesson up and let's see. Judgment on rebellion. The aim of this lesson: to study the Lord's character and disposition in reference to addressing the sin of rebellion among his people. The principle of the lesson is to affirm that God is holy and righteous and is always fair and measured in his response to sin. He extended grace. He extended mercy. He listened to Moses plead against the people. But finally, it had been too much. The application: to acknowledge God's holiness and righteousness when it comes to the matters of divine discipline, and to realize that our attitudes and our actions are seeds that ultimately will bring forth either good fruit or bad fruit. And I've got to read this because I really like what the reader said here. I'll read this in lieu of the conclusion. Part of living as the creation of a sovereign God is the realization that our actions reveal who we are. Jesus set forth this principle in Matthew 7, the 16th chapter through the 18th verse. He said, "Ye know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, figs of thistle? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. It is extremely important, therefore, to consider what type of tree we are, as evident by the attitude and actions of our lives. Are we producing good fruit or bad fruit?" Oh my God, I hope you are learning like I am. This has been an amazing lesson. God responds his judgment on rebellion. His judgment on rebellion. We have learned characteristics about God, and we have learned about ourselves. Next week, we will be in the 20th chapter of Numbers. So read. Now, this is, just advice. This is not to make you afraid or scared or anything like this, but is for you to understand that we must reverence God. We must be respectful. We may not always agree with our leaders, but we must be respectful, and we must be obedient to God's will and his purpose and his design. And so I love you. Thank you for joining. Again, thank you for all your birthday wishes. I love you. God bless you for being on this journey with me. Until next week, have a wonderful week.